How a broken taillight exposed the UK's biggest food truck smuggling ring. Rain hammered the motorway outside Manchester that night. A blue van with gourmet grills on wheels, painted in bright letters, swerved slightly as its taillight flickered out. P.C. Harris, a 32-year-old patrol officer known for his quiet professionalism, flashed his lights and signaled the driver to pull over. Nothing about the scene looked out of the ordinary, until it did. The man behind the wheel, a well-dressed, middle-aged driver named Daniel Price, smiled too much. His hands trembled when he handed over his license. His van smelled faintly of roasted meat, but beneath it, Harris caught something else. Chemical, metallic. He couldn't name it, but it made his instincts tighten. Price explained he was making a late-night delivery from a local catering company, just burgers and fries. But when Harris glanced through the back window of the van, he noticed something odd. Industrial freezer boxes stacked on top of one another, all sealed shut with metal bands. For a mobile grill business, it seemed excessive. "Open the back, please," Harris requested. Price hesitated, just for a second. But that second was enough. The van door creaked open to reveal rows of vacuum-sealed food trays, all labeled Special Reserve. Harris lifted one. It was ice cold. The packaging read Angus beef patties, export only. But the weight was wrong. Too heavy for meat. He took out his pocket knife, slit open the plastic, and the metallic smell hit him again, stronger this time. Beneath the top layer of frozen beef were rectangular packages wrapped in black foil. Inside them, a fine white powder. Harris's radio crackled. "Control, we've got something here." Within 30 minutes, the motorway was shut down. Forensic vans, armed officers, and flashing lights transformed the quiet roadside into a crime scene. Inside the van were 36 hidden packages, later confirmed to be pure cocaine, street value over £8 million. The next morning, British media exploded. "Cocaine burgers?" One headline read. But for the officers at Scotland Yard's Organised Crime Unit, this wasn't funny. The cocaine wasn't the shocking part, it was where it came from. The packaging was traced to a distribution hub in Leeds owned by Taillight Limited, one of the UK's most beloved gourmet food truck franchises. Taillight had won awards for its street food pop-ups and corporate catering. Its vans were at festivals, tourist events, and even charity fundraisers. Their slogan, "Real Taste, Real Britain," was plastered across hundreds of vehicles. But when detectives began tracing the delivery routes, something strange emerged. Every van operated on a rotating GPS schedule. None of the drivers owned the vehicles they worked in. The company's accounts showed millions in refrigeration maintenance costs, way above the industry norm. And more suspiciously, 2 of their trucks had been reported stolen in the past year, but both were later found abandoned at docks near Dover. Detective Inspector Laura Pennington, a rising star in the Serious Crime Division, was assigned to lead the case. She'd seen smuggling operations before, fake wine shipments, counterfeit textiles, but food trucks? That was new. These guys didn't just hide drugs, she told her team. They built a brand around it. When officers raided Taillight's Leeds warehouse, they expected chaos. Instead, they found spotless kitchens, pristine trucks, and employees who seemed genuinely shocked. The founder, Gordon Finch, a charming entrepreneur with TV appearances and a line of branded sauces, welcomed police with full cooperation. "We're as horrified as you are," Finch said. "Someone's using our name. Please let us help." But something didn't sit right. In Finch's office, Pennington noticed a photo of him cutting a ribbon at the grand opening of their new mobile HQ in Bristol. In the background of the photo, parked behind the crowd, was a blue van with half a tail light, just like the one Harris had stopped. When Pennington pulled the fleet records, she found that particular van had never been registered under Taillight. Its paperwork showed a fake company, Harper's Event Rentals. The company didn't exist. Digging deeper, Pennington traced the van's insurance to a defunct address in Birmingham, a small garage owned by a man named Russell King, a former lorry mechanic with prior convictions for smuggling electronics. But King had disappeared 5 years earlier. His last known business partner? Gordon Finch. Pennington's team quietly began tailing Finch. For 2 weeks, They followed him from his luxury penthouse in London to a warehouse near the docks. Every night, the same pattern: vans came in, stayed for 20 minutes, and left with sealed containers. But the night before the task force planned its raid, the CCTV cameras outside the warehouse went dark. Every single one. When Pennington's team arrived the next morning, the warehouse was empty. Not a trace of product, no vehicles, no fingerprints, nothing. The only thing left behind was a small metal box under the floorboards. Inside, a GPS tracker still blinking red. It had been transmitting for weeks, straight to Scotland Yard. That night, as Pennington reviewed the footage from the tracker, her stomach dropped. The GPS wasn't sending signals to her department, it was sending them from her department. The device was a clone of police tech used for narcotics tracking, but its internal chip was linked to an encrypted ID belonging to an officer inside the yard itself. The smugglers weren't just one step ahead. They were inside the system. When Pennington ordered her team to cross-check the ID, the name that appeared on the screen froze everyone in the room. It was Detective Sergeant Mark Evans, her former partner. Detective Inspector Laura Pennington had seen betrayal before, witnesses flipping, officers leaking minor intel to journalists, but this was different. Mark Evans wasn't just a colleague. He'd been her partner for 6 years. They'd celebrated promotions together, shared endless stakeouts, even spent Christmas shifts keeping each other awake with bad jokes and cold coffee. And now his name was at the center of a multi-million-pound smuggling empire. The next morning, the yard buzzed with unease. The chief ordered the investigation classified under Operation Halcyon, and the circle of people allowed access shrank to 5. Phones were monitored, emails scrubbed. Pennington's team was given a new base outside London, an unmarked operations room beneath an abandoned post office in Reading. Every move from now on had to be invisible. For 48 hours, they dissected Evans' digital footprint. On paper, nothing screamed corruption. Clean financials, modest home, no flashy cars. But the deeper they looked, the stranger it got. Evans had been the officer who first handled routine inspections of refrigerated exports, the same kind that Taillight's vans used. He'd signed off on over 20 customs clearances in the last year, and half those clearances had later been deleted from the main system. It wasn't just negligence, it was orchestration. Meanwhile, Finch, the Taillight founder, had vanished. His penthouse was cleared out, his accounts frozen, his phone switched off. Pennington suspected Finch had fled abroad. But then something odd appeared in the GPS logs. One of Finch's catering trucks pinged a signal just outside Reading, less than 5 miles from Pennington's new command post. "Either he's taunting us," said Officer Malik, her tech analyst, "or he's closer than we think." They tracked the signal to a derelict farm used for vehicle storage. Inside the barn, hidden beneath tarpaulin sheets, were 5 identical food trucks, spotless, fully equipped, but empty. And each had a hidden compartment welded beneath the floorboards, perfect for transporting contraband. As they inspected the trucks, Malik noticed something else. Each one carried a small, circular device near the wheel wells, GPS trackers, identical to the one found under the warehouse floor. But these weren't active. Someone had shut them off manually within the last 24 hours. Pennington's pulse quickened. "Someone knew we were coming," she said quietly. That night, back in her office, she stared at Evans' personnel file. She kept remembering little moments. Him insisting on handling routine checks himself, pushing her to close small food transport cases early, saying, "It's just petty smuggling, Laura, not our concern." Now it all made sense. He'd been clearing the path for the trucks to move undetected. At 2:14 a.m., her phone vibrated. No caller ID. A distorted voice said, "Stop digging, Laura. You don't know who you're up against." Then silence. Pennington froze. The voice wasn't Evans. It was calm, older, measured. But whoever it was knew her name, her number, and her case. She called the tech unit to trace it, but the signal bounced through a dozen proxies before vanishing somewhere off the coast of Ireland. By dawn, she'd made up her mind. Evans wasn't hiding, he was being protected. She requested a covert warrant to monitor his movements. For 2 days, he didn't go home. Then suddenly he did. Surveillance drones caught him driving into his quiet cul-de-sac in Surrey, parking his car, and carrying in 2 heavy boxes marked catering supplies. Pennington authorized the raid. When officers burst into his home, Evans didn't run. He stood at his kitchen counter, calm as ever, pouring coffee. The boxes on the floor were empty. "Evening, Laura," he said with a faint smile. "Didn't expect visitors this early." They cuffed him and read his rights. Evans didn't resist, didn't argue. He just said one thing before being escorted out. "You're too late. It's already gone." At HQ, the interrogation began. Evans spoke in riddles, never denying his connection to Finch. He admitted knowing about the smuggling network but insisted he wasn't on their payroll. "I was tracking them," he claimed. "From the inside. Someone higher up was leaking intel and I was closing in. But you blew my cover." "Convenient story," Pennington said. "You mean to tell me the GPS devices, the fake export logs, the missing vans, that was your undercover work?" Evans leaned forward. "You really think Finch runs this? He's just the salesman. The real boss doesn't leave fingerprints. Not in cash, not in shipments, not in anything. Find Finch and you'll find nothing. But find his buyer, the one with a seat at the Trade Commission, and you'll start to see how deep this goes." Pennington hesitated. Evans wasn't sweating. He wasn't nervous. Either he was lying flawlessly or telling the truth. Her superior, Deputy Commissioner Reeves, ordered Evans held in protective custody pending further review. But that evening, while being transferred to a secure facility, the transport van carrying him never arrived. Traffic cameras showed the convoy turning onto the A406, then vanishing from every feed. 22 minutes later, the van was found abandoned in a lay-by. The driver and escort were unconscious but alive. Evans was gone. Inside the van, taped to the dashboard, was a small flash drive labeled simply, "For Laura." Back at the operations base, Pennington plugged it in. The screen filled with lines of GPS coordinates, dozens of them, spanning across England, Scotland, and Wales. Each pinpoint marked catering route. And one by one, Malik realized they matched major festivals, tourist events, and public gatherings from the past year. Every one of them had hosted a taste van, a food truck. But the last coordinate was different. It wasn't an event. It was an address, an abandoned meatpacking facility on the outskirts of Liverpool. And its timestamp? Tomorrow night. As Pennington stared at the final coordinate, Malik's voice cracked through the room. "Ma'am, that facility isn't abandoned anymore. A dozen refrigerated trucks just pulled in." Pennington's reply was cold and steady. "Then tomorrow night we end this." Rain fell in sheets over the Liverpool docks, turning the streets into slick ribbons of light. The clock read 11:47 p.m. when Detective Inspector Laura Pennington's convoy rolled in, headlights off, engines low, every movement deliberate. The old meatpacking facility loomed in the distance, its faded sign barely visible through the storm. It had been abandoned for nearly a decade, but tonight, it pulsed with life. Faint light spilled through cracked windows, generators hummed, and the smell of diesel mixed with something colder, ammonia, chemicals, and fear. "Thermal shows 12 heat signatures inside," whispered Officer Malik from the van's monitor. 6 static, probably guards. 6 moving between the trucks. Pennington exhaled slowly. Her gloved hands tightened around her earpiece. "All units, hold positions. No lights, no noise. We go on my mark." Through the fog, she could see them, the Tastevana trucks lined up in neat rows, each with fresh paint, clean logos, and condensation rolling down from active refrigeration units. The same cheerful slogan, "Real Taste. Real Britain," now looked grotesque under the moonlight. "Do you see that?" Malik muttered. "They're loading crates marked spices." Pennington zoomed in with her scope. The boxes were sealed in plastic wrap, identical to the ones found in the Manchester bust weeks ago. But these weren't destined for local delivery, these were export containers. Each one tagged for ports in Amsterdam, Lisbon, and New York. This wasn't just a domestic ring. It was global. At 12:03 a.m., a black SUV pulled up beside the trucks. The door opened, and Gordon Finch stepped out, holding an umbrella and a phone. He hadn't fled the country after all. He was here, calm, in control. But then another figure emerged from the passenger side. A tall man in a trench coat, face hidden beneath the rain. Malik's screen enhanced the footage, running facial recognition through the yard's internal database. The result made Pennington's blood run cold. Deputy Commissioner Reeves, her own superior, the man who had ordered her to stand down days earlier. Malik whispered, "Ma'am, he's one of them." Pennington didn't reply. She was too busy listening through the parabolic mic. Reeves' voice cut through the static. "Finch, you've done well. Once the shipment's cleared, you disappear. The rest of it? We'll blame it on your missing partner." Finch chuckled nervously. "You mean Evans?" Reeves smirked. "The perfect fall guy. Dead men don't talk." Pennington's stomach twisted. Evans wasn't working for Finch. He'd been trying to expose Reeves the whole time. The flash drive, the coordinates, it was all a setup to bring them here. She clenched her jaw. "We're not waiting any longer," she whispered. "All units, go. If you thought a broken taillight ended one empire, wait until you see what happens when the next one starts. Hit subscribe, because this story is just getting started."